Hey everybody, welcome to Bestie Book Reviews. I'm here with my bestie Mandy.
And I'm here with my bestie Jessica.
So it's time for us to do our 1-minute book recs. This is where we talk about all the books that we have read over the past week with 1-minute synopsises of each. What? I never know if it's synopsises or synopses or synopsize. We talk about them in a minute or less. Okay, guys, that's how we do it. But before we get started, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We are still doing our Road to 1K giveaway. And
when we hit 750, we will be giving away a 9 Minutes by Beth Flynn. This is a signed copy. We got other swag to go along with it. So make sure to hit that subscribe button and follow us on Instagram for an extra entry. Everything is linked below.
All right. So let's talk about our reading weeks. How was yours?
I read 6 books and they were all 4 stars. I had no 5 stars, but no 3 or 2 stars. So it was a 4-star reading week, which is good.
That's good. That's good. I just counted. I think I read 11, but one was a duet, so I have 10 to talk about.
Jeez.
And I'm pretty sure that number's correct. And I had a couple 5-star reads in there. I had a 2-star read in there. So it just kind of, it's all over the board. We were camping once again. So you guys know when I go camping, I get a few extra in there.
Ridiculous.
I'm sorry. I hate to leave you and go camping, but I only have one more trip this year.
I'm done with it.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay. So you'll go first. I'll talk, and you talk, and then you'll talk forever.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So the first book I have is Barbarians Mate. I do a reread of any of the Ice Planet Barbarian books when I am in a book slump. And I had a crummy reading week last week. So I picked up Barbarians Mate. This is the 6th book in the Ice Planet Barbarians. This is Josie and Hayden's book. So Josie is the last of the OG girls, the original girls that land on the Ice Planet to find her mate. She has an IUD, and those things just don't come out on their own typically. So she's stuck without a mate for a long time. And Hayden has already had a mate at one point in time. And during the whole Quee sickness thing, his mate died and he had to get a new Quee. And so they actually hate each other at the beginning of this book. Her IUD falls out. She starts to resonate. And lo and behold, it's Hayden. And she and him have not gotten along at all since they landed on this ice planet. And so this is their story. She really puts him through the ringer. She does not want to be his mate because she doesn't want to be mated to the mean guy. And that's basically it. She doesn't want somebody who doesn't want her. So this one, you know, I reread them all the time. Love all these books. Ruby Dixon is awesome.
All right.
What can I say? All right, next. What you got?
Okay. I read Winning Mr. Wrong by C.W. Farnsworth. So this is about Embry. Embry's life is just not really gone the way she wants it to go. She recently lost her job, broke up with her boyfriend, and her best friend, unbeknownst to her, has filled out an application for her to go on this dating show. It's like a reality show. Think The Bachelor. And she gets accepted, and her friend springs it on her and tells her, hey, you got accepted. You're going to go, basically, and convinces her to go. So Embry goes. She gets there and finds out that the Bachelor guy is actually Ryan, who is the quarterback football player for Chicago, where she lives. And she actually says something not so nice about him that is broadcasted everywhere after a game one day when she's interviewed randomly, like how they interview fans that are coming out. And he recognizes her as the girl that did this. And so that is how this starts. Ryan is there. He's not excited to be there either. He is there because he's really tried hard to keep a squeaky clean life. And his like camp is like, you need to like do something to bring some attention to yourself. So in the off season, they convince him to go on this reality dating show thing. So it was a fun read. It was 4 stars. I enjoyed it a lot.
Cool. So my next book was another reread. not a nice Planet Barbarian, I promise. So this was Buying Beth. This is by Izzy Sweet and Sean Moriarty. This is the third book in their Disciple series, which is like a Mafia-ish type series. So this is about Jonathan and Beth. And when we first meet Beth, she's out with her girlfriends. She is like a socialite. All of her friends have their dads, all have, you know, like one's the chief of police's daughter, and her dad is like a senator. She's like a senator's daughter or something. And they're out having a girls' night, and they go to this bar, and she meets Jonathan. Now, Jonathan works for this wealthy businessman, and he goes in and he breaks up sex trafficking rings. And so she meets him. There's a spark, there's a kiss, there's something. She leaves that night with her girlfriends, and they get attacked in the parking lot and kidnapped to be sex trafficked. And Jonathan finds out. He's got this attraction to her, so he infiltrates it and he buys her. And instead of setting her free, he decides to keep her, because that's what you do. And that's pretty much it.
What do you mean he keeps her? Like,
instead of being like, yeah, go home, he's like, yeah, so you're free, but you're mine. But you're free, but you're mine.
Huh.
Mm-hmm. Anyhow, these books get better and better as you go. The third is the farthest I've gone in the series. I want to read more. I do like them. I have to be in the right mood for them, but I do like them. So when I read this, I gave it 4 stars, and I'm going to say it's probably still around that 3.5, 4 stars. It's good. They just keep getting better and better as you go. The first one is okay, and then they just get a little better. So I still liked it.
Okay, so I read An Act of Redemption by Casey Lynn. I found this book because he goes to prison, and I am on this search for like a really good prison book. This was good, but it wasn't the prison book I was looking for. So this is about Anna, who has had a very tragic past. She was like kidnapped and held hostage, and I think she was raped and stuff like that. Like it's touched on. Apparently there's some other books where some of this takes place, so I don't really know much about that.
I read the other books. You have to read the other books.
Okay. So Anna is with Logan, and Logan has like basically helped piece her together, but we don't see any of that relationship, and apparently it's not in the other books either. So I really wish that would have been here. I would have liked to have seen that. But anyways, he does something, don't want to give anything away, and he ends up going to prison. And so he tells her basically he doesn't want to see her, and he refuses to see her once he's in prison. So she tries to get him like some help, and he refuses it, and he just refuses to see her. And then one day she goes to this underground fight as a college student with a friend, and he's there, and he's one of the fighters. And she still thought he was in prison.
Okay.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, I haven't read that one yet, but I have read her Men of Honor series, the first 3, and they're so good.
So Jackson is in there?
Mm-hmm. The first one.
She has this like weird, Logan even references it a few times, like this weird hero complex with him. And I don't know, it's kind of odd, like their relationship.
You have to go read them.
I guess so.
They're good. They're really good.
Okay,
so.
Give me just a second. I'm going to set up on my computer right here. I think I can do. Oh, I'm looking at the calculator. Okay. Okay, this'll. Oops. Okay, I'm ready now.
Okay. So speaking of prison romances, that's what I've got for you next.
Is it good?
Yeah, it's actually good.
Yay!
Yeah, I gave it 4 stars. So this is called Toxic. This is by Nicole Blanchard. And this is about Tessa and who we know of in the very beginning as John Doe. We don't find out our hero's name until about halfway through the book, if not more. So Nicole is a nurse at this prison. I think they called it Blackthorn Prison. Her husband, who is an abusive a-hole, is the warden at this prison, and she has been married to him for many years. He abuses her daily, physically abuses her daily, and she is stuck in this relationship, and she can't get away from him, and so she's learned to live with it. Well, one day a new prisoner comes in, and he ends up in her in the infirmary because he's been injured, and he can tell right away there's something about her. She's injured. Like, he can see it where she uses foundations to cover. He can see it, and he's like, he gives us the line that we all love, the "who hurt you" line. And he then finagles a way to work in the infirmary with her, and she slowly gets a backbone because of his influence, and he may or may not use her to escape. So I gave it 4 stars. I really, really liked this one. This was good. This was good. The audio was good too.
Awesome.
Just definitely check triggers. Okay, so tell me about your next book.
Well, because I read the other book, I decided to read the next one. So I read An Act of Salvation by Casey Lynn. This is about Caitlin and Nick, and we meet Caitlin very briefly in the other book. And so Caitlin's brother has been accused of rape, and he is now missing. And so he has like a warrant out for his arrest, and Caitlin is desperate to find him. So she calls up the one person who she thinks can help her, and that's Nick, who works for the FBI. But her and Nick actually have a little bit of a past. Nick and her brother were best friends growing up, and she basically begs him to take her virginity because they had this attraction with each other. She has a really crappy home life, and he's kind of stepped in a little bit to offer her like a little bit of comfort from that. And so they end up sleeping together, and then he leaves and doesn't tell her goodbye. What kind of ass does that? Like, really? So I really enjoyed it. What?
What kind of ass does that?
Well, really.
Really?
I mean, some reasons are given and stuff like that, obviously. But anyway, I enjoyed it. Like I said, all my reads this week were 4 stars. So
yeah. Okay. Okay. So then I went down like this. I really needed a cult book, like a book that took place in a cult. Like I was feeling them cult vibes. So I asked in one of my reading groups, and this is what I came up with. Now, this book is a trilogy. I've only read book 1 out of the 3 this week because reasons. Okay. Just reasons. I just didn't get that far. So this is called The Order, and it's by Angel Lawson. So this is a reverse harem, but it is set in a cult setting. And so you have our heroine, who is Imogen, and she has been raised, and they call it Serenity is the name of it. Her mom was like a dissenter. Like, she was one who got out and ran away. And so she's been ostracized her whole life because of the way her mom, who helped build this cult, left. And so when you turn 12, you go as a woman or girl, you go and live with all the other girls until it's the day for your choosing. And that day is the day that technically you get married, and the leader of the cult tells you who you're going to marry. So on the day of her choosing, the leader of the cult has her marry his son. Now, his son has spent some time out in the outside world doing nefarious things, and he's decided that he wants a woman who is a little more worldly. So the leader of the cult has decided to employ the 3 best friends of this guy to make her just a little more worldly so that his son will like her. They're not allowed to actually have sex with her right off the bat, though. So let's just put it that way. But, yeah.
You read some crazy stuff, woman.
I know. I gave it 4 stars. I'm into it. I want to know what happens. It's just she really believes what she's been taught and told in this cult. So we'll see what happens next.
All right. Okay. Well, my next book is one I have been waiting for. I was so excited to get it. The Good Girl by Nikki Sloan. So this is book number 5 in the Nashville neighborhood. If you've not read the Nashville neighborhood, you're missing out. It's a wild, smutty ride. So go check that out. So this is about Preston, who we meet in The Doctor. And we get to see some of the people from our previous Nashville neighborhood books as well. So Preston has grown up a bit. I was really impressed with how much he's changed. And he is finally going to get his happily ever after, but it's going to be a bumpy ride because it's going to be with Sydney, Colin's little sister. Colin is his best friend and his business partner, so that kind of makes it a little more tricky. Sydney has done everything that her parents have ever wanted her to do. And in turn, she feels like she's just been this good girl this whole time. And she's, like the book cover says, she's ready to be bad. So he's going to give her lessons on that. But, you know, things are going to get complicated when people start catching feelings.
Of course. That's how it always
was. A solid 4-star read for me. I enjoyed it a lot.
Good.
Okay.
All right. So now we're going to get to my first 5-star read. Wrong person of the week. I read The Wrong Bride by Catherine Amora. Oh my gosh, I loved this book. Okay, so this is about Raven and Aries. So Raven is, her sister is engaged to Aries. Originally, she was supposed to marry Aries. So this is a family arranged marriage situation. But when Aries and her sister started dating, their grandma changed it and said, well, y'all are dating and you're in love, so we're going to let you two get married instead of making you marry Raven. Now, Raven's best friend is Aries' little sister as well. So she's always around, but she is definitely attracted to Aries. Her sister is an actress and she is just wanting to do her own thing. And she has postponed the wedding 3 different times. And so she decides she does not want to follow through at the wedding. And if she doesn't go, then they're just going to postpone it again and nothing bad is going to happen. Well, when she doesn't show up to the wedding, the grandma says, this wedding is taking place now or y'all are losing your inheritance. And you'll lose your business, Raven, because she'll lose like her parents' money that's invested in her business. And she's got a business. And so she'll lose everything. And so she has to marry Aries. And so then you have the sister coming back going, wait a minute. You just married my fiance. And Raven's like, look, bitch, you lost out. All right. Like she's just, there's some things with the mom that really hit close to home with me as far as like the one sister can do no wrong. And we all have to, you know, bow down to her because she was sick as a child or because she's gone through these medical things. And there were some things that I was like, ooh, I'm feeling it. I could feel the angst. This book was really good. Really good. I loved it. 5 stars. Loved it.
How many books have you read by her?
That's my second book by her. The first one was a 4-star. This is a 5-star.
I love the Stolen Moments trilogy. So good.
I haven't read that one yet. I want to finish off. This is the Windsor series. I want to finish this one off and then go from there.
I almost ordered that for Love in Vegas, but I went with Bittersweet Memories.
I think that's what I ordered from her too.
Oh, really?
Yes.
We should have talked about that.
We should have. Yeah.
I mean, I guess it doesn't matter. I mean,
Okay.
if we want the books, we want the books, right?
Exactly. So, okay.
Okay. So my next book is called Stolen Touches by Neva Altai. This is about Malene and Salvatore. So Malene, we've met her. She's Bianca's sister. She's been living in New York working as a nurse, and she's not supposed to be there because this is the other people, Salvatore's territory. And he does not like when people come to his territory. In fact, he like chops them up and sends them FedEx home in multiple packages. So Malene's there thinking like nobody is going to care about her because she's literally just there to go do her residency and complete that. Like she wants nothing to do with the mafia life. Well, she ends up meeting Salvatore, and he doesn't know who she is when they meet, and she does not know who he is. And they end up having a few random encounters / like, I don't know. But anyways, he like finds out who she is and starts obsessively stalking her, like beyond obsessively. And then he just decides that the best way to solve this problem, because he doesn't have like normal feelings like most people. And so she keeps bringing these crazy feelings out in him that he doesn't know how to handle. So his solution is, I'll force her to marry me. Mm-hmm. And I really like this book started off really strong as a 5-star, but I just started to get a little annoyed with how much she wanted out of this life and how much she started to like cave to him and how much he still controlled her, even though she was caving. And I just got a little tired of it. So it was a 4-star read. I still really enjoyed it. It just wasn't a 5-star like the other ones were.
That didn't bother me. It was a 5-star for me. It's my favorite one.
Oh, really?
It's my favorite one in the series. Yes. Seriously. I love me a man who has absolutely no feelings until he finds that girl.
Mm-hmm. That's funny.
Love that man. Yeah.
I just felt bad for her. She wanted to be a nurse and he wouldn't let her go to work.
No. Tie her up and keep her in the house. Dang it. It's fiction, Mandy. It's okay. It's okay. Just fiction. So, okay. So for my next
book
read
was Reverse Harem Aliens.
No, it's not. It's J.T. Geisinger.
Oh, okay.
So I read Savage Hearts by J.T. Geisinger. This is the third book in her Gods and Monsters series, I think is what she calls it.
Monsters and Creatures and Monsters, or Monsters and Creatures, one of those.
Whatever. It's the third book in her Mafia series, guys. Okay. So this is about Riley and Malik. This is my favorite out of all four of those books in the series. This one was a 5-star for me. So Riley is the little sister to our heroine from the second book. And at the beginning of the book, that heroine reaches out to her sister and says, hey, I'm going to get married and y'all got to come. You got to come and meet us and meet my fiance and let's do the wedding thing. So in the meantime, because her fiance, the sister's fiance, is a part of the Irish Mafia. In the meantime, there's a hit put out on him, and that's where we have Malik come in, and he is going to take out this Irish mob guy that her sister is engaged to. So when he first sees her, she's like frumpy, like getting off the airplane, hair in a ponytail, wearing sweats, frumpy. And then he sees her a little while later, and she's cleaned up, and he thinks that she's a prostitute, and he tries to give her money to get her out. Because he's like, you don't have to do this life. It's okay. She's like, what? So anyhow, there's something about her that attracts him, and he keeps sneaking into her room at night and coming back. And then eventually he just takes her. Because that's what happens. He's Bratva, by the way. I gave it 4 stars. This was my favorite out of all 4. Loved it. Loved it. There's so much more I could tell you, but I can't. I ran out of time. Oops, sorry.
You have such an odd theme this week. Tie them up and keep them.
Take them and keep them. Those are my favorite bugs. Capture, captive. Take them and keep them. Yeah.
Well, you're going to like my next book then.
Yay! Okay.
It's called A Very Mountain Man Halloween by Shaw Hart. This is about Magnolia and Graham. And Magnolia is on the run from her stalker. Okay. And he keeps finding her. So she decides she's just going to go on the run. So that's what she does. She meets Graham in the gas station. They don't really meet though, but they see each other. He goes back to his truck and he sees her come out and somebody's slashed all of her tires. And there's this hooded guy standing off to the side. And so he realizes that this guy is after her. So he jumps out of his truck, runs over, grabs Magnolia, throws her in his truck, and drives off with her.
Sounds like a good time to me.
So that's this book. It is a novella, so things do happen rather quickly, but I still really enjoyed it. And just to point out, Graham is wanting to keep her safe, not tie her up and keep her in the basement.
Never mind, I take it back. Get in the other truck.
All right, so now it's just you.
Okay, let's get through these as fast as possible. So you accused me of weird stuff in the before. That's now. Okay.
Oh dear.
So I read. Are you ready for it?
I'm ready.
I read Stolen by the Orc Commander.
Oh gosh.
This is by K.L. Wyatt. This was actually really good. I gave this 4 stars. I really like this. So this is about Snow, who's our heroine, and then you have Azog, who is our Orc Commander. So there's been a war between the humans and the orcs for many years, And the humans are starving. Like, their king is a jerk, and he and the elite are hoarding all the food, and they're not taking care of their people. And Snow's family died when she was really young, and she's been fending for herself ever since. And so she's become kind of like a Robin Hood type figure. She wears a hood. She doesn't give to the poor. She gives to herself. But she has mapped out the routes, the trade routes that the elite use. And so she is sitting in wait for someone to come by on the food route that she's got. And she's going to jump them and get their money so that she can. She's a hooded figure. She wears a hood and she does it so that she can eat. She's starving. So she does this. And when she's ambushing them, the orcs attack and they decide to keep her. So the Orc Commander takes her to Orc Mountain and things happen. It was actually really good. Go read it. It was good. It was so good. So worth it. Okay, back to Mafia. So then I read Brutal Vows, which is the last book in J.T. Geisinger's Mafia series. So this is about Homer, or Spider, as we know him. We see him through the three books, the last three books. He is the right-hand man to Declan, who is our hero in the second book. And he is a part of the Irish Mafia. And so he is just getting over a little bit of a heartbreak. And so he decides there needs to be an alliance between the Sicilians and the Irish, and he steps up and says, yep, I'll marry the 18-year-old girl. I'm not going to have a relationship with her, but I will marry her. She's a Sicilian. I'm going to marry her. And he goes to meet her, and he meets her aunt that day. Her aunt is in her early 30s, and she's a widow. Her husband abused her, but she is known as the Black Widow because of the way he died. And he is just intrigued by her. So he goes forward with the marriage. But then things happen where he actually has to marry the aunt. And so he likes that idea, by the way. But I like this one. This was 4 stars. Loved it. It was a good one, too.
The timer just went off. Yes.
Awesome.
Good job.
Awesome.
Impressive.
Okay. And then I have 2 more. 2 more. We're going to be done with this. Okay, so then the next one is another Mafia read. This was so good. Okay, so this is called Suffer in Silence. This is the duet. There's 2 books, Suffer in Silence by Kelsey Clayton, and then the second book is Screams and Symphony. So this is about Cage and Saxon. So Saxon has been raised by her parents, who are elite, wealthy people, and she has a very strong relationship with her grandfather. We see that her grandfather is starting to he's got heart failure, he's in the hospital, he's dying. So when he's in the hospital, she runs into this really attractive guy, and that is Cage. Then a little later on, her best friend takes her out to a nightclub. She runs into Cage again, and he's watching her. And then her grandfather passes away. Her best friend warned her against Cage. She doesn't listen. But when Grandpa passed away, some things come out. We find out that they're just not wealthy and elite. They're mafia. And so because Grandpa passed away and some things didn't happen properly and things didn't get handed over into the right hands, Cage ends up abducting her and keeping her at his compound. And this is not one of those mafia books where, this is very dark. This is not one of those mafia books where we take her and we keep her in a fluffy little bedroom and she gets to be a little sassy and things happen. No. He keeps her, she gets a mattress on the floor. She kind of has like a mental breakdown. There's things that happen in this book that are crazy. There's a lot, definitely check trigger warnings. But what I loved about this in both books, especially the second one, is when our heroine experiences something very traumatic, especially for a woman, she experienced something extremely traumatic. We don't just like gloss over it and, oh, yep, she dealt with it. Now she's a badass and she's going to go out there and kick some butt. No, they talk about how, you know, when you experience grief and things, you go in a wave. And there's some days when she really needs Cage to hold her while she cries. And there's some days when she rages and she's upset. And then there's some days where she just doesn't want to be touched and she's in bed. And we go through those emotions, and you don't normally see that in a romance. And I really, really appreciate that. So this was I give this 4.75 stars. I couldn't quite give it 5, but this was pretty awesome. I like it. I mean, on Goodreads, I rated it up to 5. So I did like this one quite a bit. Okay, last book was my 2-star read. This is a classic case of shoving all the tropes into one book and expecting it to work. So I read Voodoo by Christine Allen. So this is an MC romance where our heroine, who is Voodoo, he's from a New Orleans chapter of this MC. When he was young, his dad beat on his mom, and so he was having visions because he's a little bit on the psychic side, and he was having visions of his mom dying, and so his grandma, who also has a gift, got him out of there right away. Can you hear the toilet flush?
No.
Son just flushed the toilet. Okay, I'm gonna keep going. Anyhow, got them out of there, got them to Iowa, but then he still joined another MC. So his dad is looking for him at this point in time, hunting him down. And he meets this girl who is Kyra, who is our, she's a veterinarian for his dog. Kyra just happens to be the daughter of a Bratva boss. And her dad has put a hit out on her, and now the Bratva's coming after them. And by the way, he also has these visions, and he can move things telekinetically. And it was like all the tropes thrown into one book. The book was roughly 200 pages, and it was extremely fast-paced. She became his old lady after one night. One night. Like, there was no buildup. So while the idea was there, and it was a great idea, the execution just did not work. So I gave it 2 stars.
Okay.
So that is all my books for the week.
Finally.
Finally. Sorry, it became the Jessica show.
Okay.
So,
yes.
All right, guys. That is all that we have for you this week.
Leave us a comment. What are some of the books that you've read this past week that you really enjoyed? And have you read any of the ones we talked about? What did you think? And also make sure that you check back on Mondays, Thursdays, and Saturdays for new videos from us.
Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next video.